Welcome to the most up-to-date, comprehensive Infernal Kuudra guide there will ever be. It's been around a year since my last Kuudra guide, a year in which records have been broken and broken again. Over my 3,000 runs, I've learned so incredibly much about complete optimization, and I'm here today to teach you every single piece of Kuudra tech that's come up or that I've learned in my past bit of experience. Hopefully, by the end of this video, you might have at least the smallest chance of running the next 55-second Kuudra Infernal world record. So this guide has taken a lot of time from not just me, but also a lot of other people in the Kuudra gang community. These being Tentdai, who wrote a bit of the equals try script as well as the stun script. So thanks for doing that, because it saves a lot of my time. Then there's Sophie, Kuromi, and everyone else who contributed to the actual Kuudra gang guides, in which I took a lot of my inspiration from. And also my main inspirations for actually running Kuudra, these being Architector, Schnurk, G-Man, and everyone who's taught me a little bit of Kuudra along the way. You've helped me a lot, and you've gotten me to this point, so thank you so much. And a lot of the things that I've learned in this video wouldn't have been if you guys hadn't taught me. So without further ado, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, because it does help a lot, even though I don't upload that much. But yeah, hopefully you learned something, and maybe you can get yourself a new PB by the end of the video. I'll leave all your gear and mods in the description, so use whatever you want from there. But I will reference it throughout the video, like all the chat trigger modules, like Create Priority. Go check those out, those are incredibly useful, and I won't really link my setup because it's quite personalized and it's really messy right now, so I haven't changed much of it. But the bare minimum is there as well, so if you don't have that, please don't run Infernal Kuudra. It's just really inefficient and it's really annoying for Party Finder. So before we actually begin the guide, I just want to delve into the actual flow of Kuudra run that I'm going to be teaching you, just so you know how deep this guide's going to actually be and that you're not wasting your time. So for the supply phase, we're going to teach you how to do P2 and P3 during supplies and how to pull them for every single different supply. You're also going to be learning your double pearls and your reason to double pearl and where to double pearl, how to not fail your pre, so pre-fail management, and how you can recover your pre if you do fail, but otherwise how you can just not fail your pre, because there's a lot of good safe spots and movement around that. How you're going to pull your second, so your second is pretty important, especially if you're equals or try, so I'll teach you about that. Pre-relevant pickup spots and tech, so like safe spots and where you can go. Horse cancel, which is incredibly important for X, equals, and shop. So if you're doing either of these pre's, this is very important, and this is going to be part of the try guide. It's going to be at the end of the try guide, so you probably do want to watch the try guide if you do any other pre, because it has horse cancel in it. And of course, when to copter, which is pretty easy, but if you don't know, then I'll teach you. Next, for the build phase, you're going to be learning how to build, when to clear, how you're going to lifeline during builds, what to do if you're freshing, and what to do if L's on your pile, and when to leave your pile. For stunning, you're going to learn when to leave build, how to enter Kuudra, viable stun spots, because there's quite a few right now, but I'll just tell you which ones are the best. Viable skip spots, because if you skip in the wrong spot, Kuudra can spawn in really far up on a wall. You could just be floating over the platform. So there's some good viable skip spots that you need. And also how to buff yourself as done, as in how to rag Reaper and how to swap your inventory. For the part 3 DPS, you're going to be learning how much you should pre-fire, your amount of tap usage, when to use RCM Terror and how to use it correctly, and how to EQ and inventory swap at the correct times. For part 4 DPS, I'll be teaching you how to Rend a little bit, and a lot of the Rend requirements. Also, I'm also be teaching you how Rend works, if you're wondering, but if not, you can just skip that part. If you have any questions throughout the video, I'll skip below and I'll probably answer it. Otherwise, I'll put some FAQ in the description, or just a bunch of things that you might want to know. And there's going to be waypoints, mods, and other things in the description, so you should check that out. So before all the personalized supplies actually happen, I'm just going to teach you a little bit about general supplies as a whole. So if you'd actually understand what I'm going to be talking about, you should probably listen to this part. So your pre is your first crate that you pick up. This is the one that spawns 9 seconds into the fight. And your second is the second supply that you pick up. The pre's and seconds are on screen right now. This diagram was made by Wolfark. Thanks to him, it's very clear and I like it a lot. So only 6 of these 7 total supplies spawn every run, which makes supplies a lot more random, and this is where P2 and P3 comes in, which was created by the Gdrag community. A P2 happens when your pre or someone else's pre doesn't spawn. This P2 can often be confused with part 2 of Kuudra, which is the build phase. So for this guide, the build phase will be called the build phase, and all the other phases will have their proper name, while a P2 and P3 are going to be the supplies. So when a P2 happens, the person who doesn't have a pre will go to square and drag it to the safe spot. If they have time, they'll go to X cannon and drag it to the necessary spot. And then finally, they'll go pick up shop. The reason for this is that it makes a run go as efficiently as possible. As the person whose pre doesn't spawn has extra time, they can go help others speed up their seconds. So the general movement of everyone else after P2 is that they will go to their nearest second to pick it up. As this is incredibly confusing right now, there's a table on screen, and Garbage Man also has a little bit of a chat trigger that helps a lot. It's called Create Priority, and it tells you where to go depending on which pre's didn't spawn and depending on the chat message that says which pre didn't spawn. The next thing is a P3, which happens when shop doesn't spawn. This is the most optimal, for me at least, as it means that try and equals don't have to go to shop, and they can help others with their seconds. This is also the easiest to memorize, as equals just goes horizontally directly to square to help slash pick up the second, and try goes to X cannon to help X drag in XC. After picking up your pre, you want to pearl at the build waypoint. So as soon as you pick it up, it has a percentage. When it's in between 30 to 38, you want to pearl, but not too early because it could cancel it. There's a bit of extra tech on slash because you could pearl into your crate, but I'll talk about that later. When you pick up a supply, you want to hype a few seconds after you pick it up. So preferably after you pre-pearl, because that's when most of the tentacles are going to be up. The reason you do this is because it will slow the tentacles by a quite large amount. So by doing this, it pretty much guarantees that you can get your supply on some pre's, but other pre's just have really fast tentacles, so wait till like the personalized pre spot. On harder pre's, you'll want to move further away from any tentacles that spawn near you, such as slash. You want to move to the left, but I'll talk about that later. And on other pre's, just generally, if there's a tentacle near you, just get as far away as possible without stopping the pickup animation. Since there's a lot of tech to learn about each different pre, I highly recommend that you have your own pre to learn well and play constantly. After you've actually learned it to a good high degree and you can solo place it at 27 to 28 seconds, you can start working on different pre's. Try is by far the easiest pre, as it's pretty much unfailable as long as there's not a huge amount of server lag and it doesn't spawn in the furthest out location possible. Since it has such a small area that it can spawn in, your bubble will nearly always be able to reach the far out spawns. Sometimes if your bubble is too far left or too far right, and the spy spawns on the other side of it, you may fail your first pull, but otherwise just change your course of your rod and you'll be fine. If you do manage to fail try though, for some particular reason, you could always bring it to X cannon, or you can bring it around to the shop safe spot. Shop is also the second for try. What this means is that after you go to the build pile, you'll want to TP over to shop. There's 2 spots on shop that you can go to, but in the meantime I'm just going to tell you that you can also pearl, because the rest of it's going to be in the shop guide. By pearling over to shop, it means that you can save some time on the TP over, but it really doesn't matter if you're not really in a competitive party, and there's also a higher risk factor to it, as it's a much higher chance that you could either go to the wrong side or it's just going to hit a tentacle while you're picking up try. So finally we've made it to the shop guide, which is probably going to be one of the longer ones today. So shop has 2 safe spots, one that is right here in the corner, and another one that is here, this one. So with this one, you can pick it up at the front, but as soon as you do pick it up, move backwards. And with this safe spot right here, all you want to do is drag it around to this corner right here. If it's too far away, it's going to be a bit hard to pick up, but you just want to pick it up right here, the corner, and move in a little bit. This safe spot only works if there's not a tentacle that's already clipping into the spot, and this safe spot only works if there's no tentacle that's incredibly close. If one's like around here, you'll be fine. Most of the time, this one doesn't spawn, so you want to just bring it to this spot. This is probably also the most frequent spot that you're going to be bringing it to. This area is a lot of the time mainly for shop spawns that are closer to the cobblestone, like one that would spawn around here. So you just bring it around and it's pretty easy. There's a diagram on screen right now of where you should bring it. Sometimes you should border the supply, and what this means is that you'll go under the border around here, and it would spawn under the lava, and you go under the border. When you try to actually border the supply, you're going to be looking upwards towards the supply, because that's where its actual hitbox is, not forwards. I used to do that, and I wasn't able to border the supply properly. You want to look upwards and cast your rod. That way you can actually get the supply. After you do border it, you just walk forwards and fell to your area. So the rest of shop is pretty self-explanatory on screen right now. If it spawns around here on the left, you drag it this way. If it spawns around here on the right, you drag it this way. And even if you didn't have this diagram, I'm pretty sure you'd know what to do. So with shop, there's two people that pick it up. This being try and equals. The reason that there's two people who actually go pick it up is that since shop is quite a hard supply, in fact it's probably the hardest second, it requires a bit more pulling than usual, since you have to pull it all the way from this area, all the way here. And since your bobber can't reach all the way over that side, like sometimes it even spawns out here, you need two people. So the person who reaches here first should go in the lava, but if it's like all the way out there, you might want to first be pulling it on the cobblestone. The reason for this is that pulling on an actual block that's stable is much better than pulling lava, because you have those massive bounces sometimes. And every time that you're not in lava means that there's another chance for you to not have a super bounce. So you want to pull it all the way in to the cobble right here. So it should be sitting where I am right now. And then from here, you're going to jump into the lava like this and move forwards while picking the supply. And you just want to drag it over. For the equals player or the second person who makes it over here, if it is on this side, all you'll want to do is just cast your rod out while the other guy is pulling it over. This way you just speed up the process from bringing it over from there to here. And that's the main reason why you want two people here. I also want to explain something different called a horse cancel. This will be used in a lot more competitive parties and also will be used if these two safe spots are not available. The reason for this is that if you want to pull shop to any safe location, there literally isn't any apart from the border. And since the border is not very fun to use, a lot of people will have to bring it to this cobble spot. And from this cobble spot, they'll do something called a horse cancel. And what is a horse cancel? A horse cancel is pretty much where you can pearl into the ground using an entity. So if you do this, it means that if you spawn a skeleton horse pet and you pearl directly into it, I'm showing this on screen right now with a few of Archie's clips. It's going to be a lot more consistent and you're going to have to use this on a lot of other pre's. The only issue is that it's pretty hard and you have to practice. Horse cancel also isn't as good as it was before because they changed pearls somehow and it's just a bit less consistent. It's also really hard because your skeleton horse has a passive mob like kind of AI, so it's a bit stupid if it just runs away. Half the time, as you see in Misag's clip right here, you can use your rod as a kind of order pet to spawn it, because sometimes it's going to take quite a while to open your pet menu and then get back to your ender pearls. So there's a bit of tech with actually cancelling. So when you cancel, you're going to be moving away from the tentacle. So let's say the tentacle you're trying to move away from is the one that spawned here, that's clipped into this safe spot. So you're going to be standing here on this block, trying to pick up the supply, which is likely going to be around here, in this location. And when you try to pick it up, you're going to pick it up quickly, spawn your skeleton horse, and since the tentacle's on this side, you're going to walk here and pearl downwards. By walking and pearling, it keeps you on this same spot, but it keeps you on the edge of the block. So the way that a tentacle will pick you up is it will move over and pick you up either on the top of your head or the bottom. So if you've moved a little bit to the right, it won't be able to pick you up there. It also picks you up on the block that you actually picked the supply on. So you started the picking animation on this block, and then you moved over to here. The tentacle would still try to pick you up on this previous block. So that's why you try to move around. The way that cancel also works is that it would help if you like move between two different heights that are very similar. It's kind of similar to stonking, because if I think about it, you want to have some like weird looking blocks together. So I enjoy like moving between slabs because you move up and down a block, meaning you're even further away from the tentacle. The main issue is sometimes if a supply spawns like pretty far out, so pretend I'm the supply right now, and you're trying to pick me up from here and also cancelling, it'll cancel your actual picking animation because you're moving up and down and you're getting too far away from the supply. Something I like to do to help this is that you can drag a supply diagonally. So let's say the supply was here and it's really far out, you can jump backwards and drag it in. And another way you can do it is just drag it diagonally or sideways. This way it can get close to clipping the actual cobblestone and then you'll be really close to the supply. So you can pretty much move freely when you're trying to pick it. Another nice spot I like to use is this one right here, so I'll pick it and move backwards. I like this one because you can like unshift for once, because I always have like a fear of falling off if I don't unshift. You should unshift most of the time if you're moving left and right when cancelling, but it's just a lot nicer here because you can actually walk into some nice blocks that block you from walking. So I just move back here and then start cancelling. Get your horse out around here. So that's it with cancel, but most of the time you won't have to use it, just drag it to the side. I would say just always drag it to the side if there's no tentacle there. Only use this if you're like really desperate. Another way, if you really don't like skeleton horse cancelling, is that you can bring it over here, if there's a tentacle here already, and just pick it up from any area around here. You don't want to pick it up around here, because if you are coptering, which is what I'll be showing you next, this tentacle will still pick you up if that tentacle isn't working, so it's not really useful if you pick it up here. So still drag it to around here, but you don't have to drag it as far. What you'll want to do is start the picking animation. So let's say the supply is right here, and I'll start the picking animation, so it starts to 0, and then you jump backwards, which kind of cancels the animation, and you're going to TP around the island. What this does is that the tentacle will still follow you, so it's like it's still trying to pick you up, but you're moving, so it has to follow you while you're moving. Make sure it doesn't catch you, or else it'll bring you back and then start the animation for whoever's actually picking the supply. But you just want to pick it up like this, jump backwards, and then fly around the island. The only issue with copter is that you will need a second person to come around and pick it up. The reason it works is that you've taken the tentacles aggro, so it can't pick up a second person, and then they can just come over and pick up the supply without any harm. This is only if you're like having a really bad run, and then like, let's say the supply spawned, you got it over, and then the other tentacle spawned, and then it's just really annoying. So that's pretty much the only times that you'll want to use copter. Some people use it on /2, because like they're having troubles or something, because let's say there's a tentacle here. But I'll mention that later on. But yeah, that's pretty much it with shop. If shop doesn't spawn, then you can save the hassle of having all that and just move over to that side. So I forgot to mention something else about shop, which was that since there's 2 people picking it up, and there's one that's just dragging here, it's usually the one who's dragging right here that'll pick up the supply instead of the other person in the lava, because they're already in the safe spot. So the person who was dragging the supply in the lava, what they should do is go around and find Kuudra. So it spawns here, it spawns there, and it spawns around there. And what you want to do is last breath it. I recently found that flame and duplex work on the last breath with its ability. So all you have to do is actually shoot it one time with flame. Flame is like something new that we actually found the other day. We 1-peaked with it with only 1 LB shot, so I'm guessing at least that flame works with the ability. So all you have to do now is shoot it one time with your last breath, and you should be alright. Since you're the only person who has free time at that moment, at least, since everyone else is doing their seconds, that's why you're the one LBing most of the time. Otherwise, anyone who's free time should be the one who's last breathing. I would say that Eagles is arguably one of the hardest breeds. In fact, it's probably the hardest or second hardest, depending on how you like it or not. I enjoy it a bit more than X, so I'd say it's the second hardest, but other people could debate this. The reason this is because the tentacles that spawn around you are incredibly fast. So there's 3 actually, so 1 here, which will sometimes spawn all the way out here as well. 1 that spawns here, where I am right now. So it's a lot further out, but it can still pick you up if you're anywhere on these blocks, including these first stairs. And finally, 1 that spawns right here, which is usually the one that picks you up first. This one is also the most annoying because it literally always spawns, and it's just really annoying to deal with. As you can see, Equals is a bit different from the other breeds, because as you can see, these other ones have like a flat surface. Equals has its own staircase, which is pretty cool. And this staircase is what we're going to use most of the time to like actually pick it up. You can't really be standing around here because it's not safe. If you didn't watch the shop guide, please go back and do, because I'm going to be talking about a little bit of force cancel here. So if all 3 tentacles spawn, there's pretty much no way that you'll have picked it up unless you're really lucky and let's say it spawned here. But most of the time you won't be able to pick it up, so what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to force cancel. The main way I'd recommend doing this is start on this block, the stair, and it's likely going to be the tentacle that's around this corner that's going to pick you up. So stay on this stair and move into the corner. I like the corner again because, like I said before in the shop guide, I can just move into it and then start cancelling from there instead of having to be on the edge of this block. What I'm trying to say is that you can move to this block before you start cancelling, and you'll be cancelling on this block instead of this block. The tentacle's still going to be picking you from this block, the previous one, and you'll be on a different one entirely instead of just on the edge of that one. So it helps quite a lot. Second place you can just cancel is around here. Just move backwards like that. But if the supply spawned on this side, then you probably won't be able to do that since it's so far away. Like I said before, a supply might be able to be a little bit too far away from the cobble, and what you do if that happens is that you'll have to pull it closer by diagonally pulling or just pulling it sideways. This little spot here makes it so that the tentacle will flip on, and then the supply will flip to the side a lot, so you'll have to drag it sideways or diagonally. Equals has a huge range where it can spawn, being from this side all the way over to this side, so it's like a full 90-degree angle. So I would most of the time throw my bubbler that way because that's the furthest distance it can be. On this side it doesn't go that far, and on this side it also doesn't go that far. These two, so this diagonal and this straight line, are pretty much the same. When it spawns you just drag it in and hope for the best with your tentacle RNG. But with this side it's a lot easier because you have these stairs that you can walk up, so I highly recommend that you drag it. So if it's like right there, you drag it around to here in this spot. So I'll sit in it right now, this spot right here, and this means that you have a little more distance that you can go up the stairs. So I usually go up to here, and what this means is that from here the tentacle that's really far away can't pick you up, neither can this one. But if the tentacle that spawned here spawned, you're gonna have a bit of a hard time. This tentacle right here is also probably gonna be a big problem for you if all 3 spawn, or at least 2 spawn, because it means that this safe spot around here won't be able to be used. Most of the time if it doesn't spawn though and you fail, you'd want to drag it around to this side. So I'll drag it away to this side, and you should pick it on this block because it's shorter, and this block's a lot less consistent, or this block. Just pick it from here and you should be alright. If you're having some trouble, just move downwards to this one and pick it from here. Otherwise this entire circle should be used if you can't figure out how to use this area. Equals is also a lot easier because you can drag it to the cannon that it will usually spawn, I think, around here on this corner. The thing to know about cannons is that you want to have it as close as possible to the cannon because half the time it will stop your cancelling. So you bring it around, you drag it through this tentacle, which is going to be a bit annoying. You can drag it around the tentacle as well, but you just want to bring it around here next to this block. This block is the one that you want, because from this one you can't really see the cannon. Same with the other one. So this one you can actually see the cannon, and you just right click onto the cannon to get on. If a tentacle is trying to pick you up, you just hold right click on the cannon and you should be fine. You don't really want to use the cannon though, because you can't pre-pearl. On cannon you can't really pearl out of anything or use any items, so most of the time you'd much rather be wanting to use this area. So to recap, Equals is very force cancel dependent around here if all 3 tentacles spawn, or if 2 tentacles spawn. Otherwise, if it spawns around here, you move up the stairs. Always use the stairs or something that's like a different size to a normal block. So next we have Slash, and with Slash, it's probably another really easy pre that you can't fail most of the time. This is mainly because the tentacles that spawn at very different paces. There's only 2 that spawn around you, one that spawns here, and around this spot. This one can pick you up even though it seems far away. Sometimes it'll spawn around here as well. It's a bit annoying if you're like second pearling to square, but I'll talk about that later. So when you pull it in, you want to have your bubble cast in this direction, diagonally that way, because the furthest out it can spawn is around here, and it's pretty annoying if that happens. Otherwise, Kuudra will spawn on this side sometimes for you, so if you do manage to fail and you're standing too far on this side, you just bring it down here, cancel, and pick it up, Otherwise, if it spawns straight out from here, it's pretty easy to pick up, or if it spawns from this side, you just want to pick it up here and move down. So the reason that you're going to want to be around this area most of the time, on this half of the platform, is that the tentacles that spawns on this side is a lot faster than the one on this side, and it will pick you up, which makes it seem like a harder supply, but as long as you have it somewhere on this side and pick it up under from this stair, you should be alright. This one spawns incredibly slowly, and if you do start seeing it spawn somehow, you can type a few times to slow the supply, to slow the tentacle, but this one, you can also get it from here, but it's a bit harder. Main issues with Slash are maybe if you've dragged it to this corner and it stopped moving and you want to move it over a little bit more. It's pretty hard to do, so what you'll want to do is just hop in the lava quickly. It's still somehow faster than this tentacle spawning, so that's all you'll want to do if that happens. Otherwise, if you do manage to fail or you want to horse cancel here, Slash is probably the easiest one, because you have this slab here and you also have this stair here and you have another slab and another slab, so it's really easy. But yeah, that's Slash really. Slash also is nice because it's probably a really fast supply with its second added together, so it's the easiest one to get 25 seconds on, I would say. The main reason for this is because it's the P2 that I mentioned before, so someone will most of the time be dragging your square to its safe spot, right here. And since your pearl lands you exactly here, your second pearl, if you want to know which mod has the second pearl, like the good one, it's Odin, so just turn on waypoints for that one. So you just pearl forwards and pearl sideways. Another thing I should mention with Slash is that since you're closer to the supply, you're a block and a slab away, or actually just a full block away, half the time you will pearl into your crate or your supply. What this means is that your pearl won't actually go anywhere, and it's a lot more annoying because like it just means that you're staying in the same spot. Sometimes you'll even fall off the side and fall into the lava, which is not particularly wanted. So if that does happen, what you'll want to do is just pearl back onto your block. Finally, when you go to square, which is going to be your second, sometimes it will spawn all the way around here, which is the most unoptimal area, and sometimes it can spawn all the way out here, which is also quite annoying. As I mentioned before, you always want to be pulling on the actual blocks that you're standing on, not in the lava, because you'll bounce around. So with square, if it spawns out here, you just bring it in, like that, and then you just want to hop in the lava and then bring it over. Most of the time though, it will be done for you, but if you are pulling it from this area to this area, you just want to be pulling it sideways. If you pull it diagonally, there's a high chance that you'll clip into this block, and it's a bit annoying. There's two safe spots for square, the one that's right here, down here, and the one that's up here. Most of the time you want to be using this block, but you can use this block if you've already picked it up somehow and you're already here. Sometimes if the tentacle isn't close to this one, you pick it up here and then move inwards. You can still use these because the square waypoints for the build pile are there in the sky. You can pearl upwards still, so it's alright. But most of the time you want to use this top one because you can actually see everything. This bottom one is a bit annoying because there's a second block here, so you can't see. But otherwise, that's pretty much square. You want to land here, if it's a P2, and just right click, pick it up, and TP to whichever pile it is. It's a lot easier than everything else because you don't actually have to pull it in. Someone else has already pulled it, so as long as you've picked up your supply and your second pile is fast, it should be pretty easy to get yourself a 27 second or under to build pile, so it should be pretty simple. Finally, we have X, which is in my opinion the hardest pre, especially because these tentacles pick you up quickly and the supply can spawn really far out. So the main thing with X is that you have to learn to cancel, which I mentioned in the previous shop guide. So if you didn't watch that, you have to watch this. You have to watch that if you're watching this X guide. If you main X, it's going to be a lot harder than other pre's, but if you get used to it, you'll be pretty good at it. So the main thing you'll want to do, sometimes it spawns all the way out here. So you want to have your bubba around this area, because it can spawn directly in front of you as well. But sometimes it will spawn in this area, so it's also 90-degree angle, as was equals. Sometimes it will also stop dragging after it reaches this point. So you can pick it up at the corner of this stair, but it's a bit more risky because you could like fall off. So you don't want to do that. But most of the time, if you do fall off, I've seen a lot of people just pearl back on. So do that if you want. But that's the main thing. With cancelling, the most consistent blocks that I found are these three. So you want to move left this direction, and these two right here. So you want to move left or right in this direction. The tentacle that usually picks you up is the one on the left, and on this side. There's also another one that spawns around here on this side, but that's also further away and picks you up less of the time. The issue with this is that, like, one that's on here and the one on this one here, they spawn pretty much at the same time. So you can't really avoid the tentacle by just moving to a different side, because there's one there. You can't stand perfectly in the middle to the back either, because the one on the left has a lot more range than the one on the right. So the main thing you're going to have to do is cancel. As I showed you cancel before, you just move left for this one, and also left on this one. That's pretty much it for X, but it's just cancelling. You have to practice it quite a lot. There's a second way you can do it if you don't like cancelling, but you have to ask your party before you actually do it. So most of the time you can like start out here, and by doing that you can just reel it in from this side and border it. You border it in the corner, like, I think it's around here or around here. But by doing that, it means that you can always get the supply, and it's like 100%, but it's always a lot slower, so ask your party before you do it. The main reason that you can't just drag it around here is because a tentacle can sometimes spawn here, and then it's really annoying when you're like halfway through picking the supply and then the tentacles change, and then you have one in front of you that picks you up. So you just want to drag it here to save the extra time that you might want. That's pretty much it with X. You also can pearl to XC, which is X cannon. X cannon probably actually is more tech than X has. With X cannon you have multiple safe spots. One that's here. So what it means is that you drag it to these two blocks down there, and you pick it and just run backwards quickly. So it's like start the animation and run back. This is because the tentacles that pick you up here can pick you up on the other blocks and in the middle of this one, so you just want to be at the very back of it. This spot also doesn't work if there's a tentacle directly in front of it. You can tell by looking forwards. So yeah, that's it. Then we have the cobblestone spot that you're meant to pick it up, that the admins want to use. But most of the time this doesn't work. There's actually a tentacle here or a tentacle here. But if there isn't and they're really far out, you can always use this spot and move upwards a bit. It's pretty consistent, so use that if you want. Talking about that, if the supply spawns around here and there's the same conditions as using this spot, so there's no tentacles close, you should pick it up around here in this area or around this area. Anywhere in this spot that I just walked in and there's blue, you should be alright to pick it up in. The reason for this is that you can pearl to your pile. Your pile should be here. You only use the cannon when you have to, and when you have to is when the supply actually spawns and then the tentacle actually spawns around here. And if that happens, you drag it to around here or just here and you hop on the cannon. The cannon, as I mentioned before, prevents you from pearling, which is the reason why you don't really want to use it. That's why you like this spot better. I find that the drag is always really easy because it's close. So if you have a good P2, you can also like insta place pretty quickly. So you can get like a 25 or 27 second place. So yeah. Build is one of the easiest phases because there's not really much to it. You just click the box, and there's just a few variables that might change how you want to build, and this is why you actually need a build guide. So before build starts, there's a few seconds that you can use to actually get your items on that you need. So you can swap your inventory around. You have to buy Ballista Mechanic. So the main things that you want in your inventory that I'll mention now are your Wand of Strength, your 5 Ale, your Hype, and your Term if you're using RCM Terror. Otherwise, you can start clicking the build before it actually starts. This is called a pre-hit, and it allows your build to have a high chance to insta-fresh. meaning that you fresh at 0%. By doing this, it just means that if everyone does it, everyone has a much higher chance to fresh. To build correctly, you start at the corner closest to your pre. We're going to be using wolf ox little diagram again to show the direction of how you build. So try and slash are building together, equals and x are building together towards the middle, and then there's a few scenarios with freshing. The main scenario that you have to look out for is if two people fresh on the same side and nobody on the other side freshes. What this means is that if you don't move to the other side or you don't change anything with your build, one side is going to finish a lot faster than the other side, meaning you're going to miss out on about 1 or 2 seconds of building because you're both teleporting to the other side. So the way that you're going to fix this is that after one person finishes their pile, they will go to the other side, while the second person who freshes on the same side will just keep building the middle pile. This essentially means that both sides will pretty much finish at the same kind of time. Also, make sure that your fresh tools perk is maxed, because it's really unfortunate, let's say, if you forgot to do that. There's a couple other things in the Crimson Essence shop that you want to have maxed, so have those maxed. Wave 100 isn't really necessary, because you can clear anyways, and it's fine. Finally, you want to be building on the corner of your piles, as this allows you to use abilities freely. During the build, you want to constantly swap back and forth between Hype, 5L, Wonder Strength, and this means that you can clear, give yourself with a shield, and also have a lifeline health. By the way, your Wonder Strength won't actually take away from your absorption hearts, so you can just have your Wither Shield up at all times. This is another perk of RCM Terror, because it gives you a massive Wither Shield, so it helps a lot. Also, with the new QL Crimson Isle changes, it makes it a lot easier to 10-star your 5L. Make sure you do this, because it actually does 20% more damage, and it's pretty cheap, it's like 100 mil or so. So if you have the money to spare, you might as well use it on that, because it just makes clearing so much easier. Your 5L will be doing most of the clearing, because don't hype, because if you left and right click, just spam left and right click, it doesn't work on the build. So make sure you only 5L every while. If you are someone who dies a lot in builds, consider using RCM Terror and a second Gdrag with a Shelm. The RCM Terror, as I said before, would provide you a larger with a shield at the cost of less mana. And because you have less mana, you'll do less damage, which is why a second Gdrag is very required. The second Gdrag should also have a Shelm because you're going to be running that along in supplies. RCM Terror is also useful in other ways, in more competitive parties, so that you can shoot mobs during builds to gain Terror stacks, which is why sometimes you might want to swap to Terror at the end, swap to your term at the end of the build phase. After build is done, all the DPSs, all 3 of them, should AOTV towards slash. Make sure you're like somewhere high in the air so that mobs won't follow you. This is mainly because people who drag mobs over will likely kill all of the 3 DPSs, who should be lifeline by that time. So make sure not to walk over, as it does attract mobs quite a lot. Also, don't stand high up, because that can also still attract mobs. As soon as you get back down to the cobble area, swap to your Terror instantly, and shoot Kuudra. If you're already in RCM Terror, you can just start shooting Kuudra as soon as you TP down. The reason you don't want to be swapping the rest of your inventory is because the DPS is mainly off tap, which is Toxic Arrow Poison, if you don't know yet, and you want to have half a stack of it. The way it works is that each Toxic Arrow Poison pretty much adds like its own like tick damage kind of thing, and the more you have on Kuudra at the same time, the more damage you'll be doing. Your term is mainly just so you can get more tap hits on it. If you're wondering why we don't use Salvation, which is the left click ability for term, it doesn't actually work unless there's a tentacle behind Kuudra, and it kind of lags it a little bit, so it doesn't really matter. Please make sure that as soon as you TP down and swap to Terror, you actually do shoot, because we don't want people just sitting around EQ swapping while they could be doing DPS. You can EQ swap around the end or the middle of Kuudra taking damage, because by that time all your tap stacks will actually be on, so you'll keep doing damage. At the start you won't be doing anything, so you want to get those on before you start swapping. When Kuudra hits 30%, this is about the time you should swap your hotbar and swap your equipment. Otherwise, if you're new to Kuudra, or new to Infernal at least, you could start swapping at 50% as long as you've actually pre-fired enough. If you're rending, you'll also want to have swapped to your Rend bow around the end of Kuudra dying, because you need to get those Rend arrows in. Otherwise, there's not really much else to it. During the animation skip, which is about 5 seconds or so, make sure you rag. During the 3 seconds it's taking to actually cast, swap to your Reaper, and while you're in Reaper, don't swap back to Terror yet after you use the ability. First, swap your equipment in, and then shift, then swap back to your Terror. If you are rending, make sure your Terror doesn't have a wooden helmet on in P3, because the reason why you use an Infernal Terror helmet is for the speed, and you do need Infernal Terror helmet, because if you use a basic helmet, you're not doing as much on the first burn. For a stunner, it's a little bit different. So when build reaches 90% and there's not many mobs destroying piles, you are allowed to TP to the cannon. Make sure your arms and arms reach away from the cannon, so as soon as you purchase your human cannonball, you can just click the cannon and you can go in. To actually get on the cannon, make sure to left click instead of right click. I've right clicked a lot when I started stunning, and I was a bit stupid because it didn't actually shoot me, so I was just sitting on the cannon taking damage. When you actually try to shoot yourself in, aim lower towards Kuudra, because if you aim too high or away from Kuudra, you'll bounce off and fall into the lava and die, which is rather embarrassing, and I've done it quite a lot when I started, because someone apparently told me to shoot slightly higher. As long as you're not facing your cannon directly downwards, you're alright. You can just face the ground towards Kuudra, as long as you're not too far away, so that's alright. If you aren't using RCM Terror, you should swap to Terror while you're on the cannon, and swap your inventory, because these 3 seconds are the main amount. The main times that you're allowed to swap your inventory. There's only one viable way to actually stun in Kuudra, and that is the use of the Picobulus Hodam ability. This ability is unlocked at Hodam 2, and it's the way that you get the stuns that you see in all the top players' VODs. To perform this method of stunning, you just have to have any type of pickaxe that can have a mining ability. So as soon as you reach the belly, you want to TP using the Edwarp actual item. The actual item being the conduit, not your AOTV. Your AOTV means there's an extra step, meaning there's more fingers on your keyboard, which means more stress. As soon as you enter, you want to have the good angle towards whichever pod you're using. I would highly recommend this pod right here. This is a pod that I use, because if you fail, there's still a way that you can still keep going. If you do fail or miss because of lag or lag back, all you have to do is break the pod by left clicking and looking in a circle on the clay. They've changed it somehow so that you can insta-break the clay but not the glass, so don't go back to the usual insta-stunning area that was before, because the glass doesn't insta-break anymore. After you finish stunning, you're going to perform an animation skip. An animation skip allows you to skip around 20 seconds of time to speed up the run severely. The way that you're going to do this is incredibly simple. So you're going to throw a pearl across Kuudra when Kuudra's health is at 40 to 35%. You don't want to be throwing it up, because the animation skip will be really slow and you'll be outside Kuudra for a while, which leaves you vulnerable to the lava and all the mob. There's also a few viable skip slots, because if you don't skip in these particular spots, Kuudra will appear in some really weird locations that you don't want to, especially if there's someone rending. But after you do manage to skip by throwing a pearl into the wall, you will be able to have 4 to 5 seconds to swap all of your items, if you hadn't already on the cannon. I did this because I need my pearls, which are linked to my Wonder Strength and a lot of other things, so I have to swap during this time. It also allows you to Rag Axe and Reaper. This is also another reason why you have to have Wonder Strength during builds earlier, because you don't have any time to do that right now. Finally, if you're a render, you should have been using RCM Terror as a stun, because you do need those stacks or else you do literally 0 damage. Part 4 is incredibly self-explanatory. As soon as you go down, use your endstone sword so you can buff everyone else, especially the renders who jump away really quickly. So as soon as you get down there, you're on endstone. And otherwise, you just shoot Kuudra. If the ground under you turns red, jump. Otherwise, you just shoot it. There's not really much else to it. Don't use an SOS flare if you have renders, because the ferocity will throw off the rend. If mobs do spawn, make sure to hype once with the shield, and don't just shoot the mobs, because you can probably die. If you're stunning and rending, as I mentioned before, you need the RCM Terror, as you won't have enough time to gain Terror stacks. So at the end of part 3, as I mentioned before, instead of equipping 3/4 Terror with the wooden helmet, you're going to have full Infernal Terror to allow for as much speed as possible to reach your peak. Make sure to run into the wall also to provide more momentum. By doing this, you can just go to front peak, left or right, faster. But if it is back peak, then you're just unlucky, because then you have to turn around and everything. You will know which direction Kuudra spawned at by using one of the Kuudra mods. These being Volk add-ons or any other ones, the new ones. I think Odin has it, Cherries might have it, but a few others might also have it. So the way you're actually going to rend is that you want to throw your bone at the edge of the block, and after you throw it, you want to instantly swap to your Blade of the Volcano while jumping forwards. And while you jump forwards, you want to open your equipment, swap to your Wound Helmet for the additive damage, and go to your Endstone Sword, right click, go back to your bone. Make sure to right click, by the way, on a backbone. You can hear the backbone if you use cherries. You can like play a specific sound for it or have like a specific text appear. And you want to Rend on backbone because that's the double damage multiplier, and that's the main reason you're doing a lot of damage. So Endstone, and then get to your Rend bone again. There's a few reasons why peaks are actually important. So front and left peaks will allow you to deal the most damage, and if you don't deal at least 90 mil from like front and left, you probably shouldn't be rending. It's a lot harder on right and back because you only deal about 40 to 50. With 4 people, you should still be able to 1 peak if you continue shooting with your term afterwards. But if your party consists of both renders and duplex players, you probably won't 1 peak. If this does happen though, you should hype for wither shields if you run out. I should have mentioned before that during part 3, at the end of part 3, while you're running into a wall, you should hype for wither shield. So when you jump into the lava, you don't instantly die. If there are 3 renders and 1 duplex player, the duplex player may want to go debuff using an AOTS to lethality Kuudra, and stay in Aurora during part 4 to have a huge mana drainer. This way people can like max out their strong mana and a few other things, as well as have less defense on Kuudra. This is mainly up to the party though, so consult them before doing this, because I find a lot of the time if I debuff and they don't 1 peak, then it's just a little bit cooked, because half the time they might die and I'm just like trying to kill Kuudra with an AOTS. Rending also takes a huge amount of practice and muscle memory, so don't worry if you don't get it at first. You should practice in like 500 plus or 1k plus parties. If you're actually wondering how Rend works, what it does is it applies all the possible additive buffs together, these being the Wound Helmet, Endstone Sword, uses an item to multiply them, in this case being the Bone Meringue as well as the Blade of the Volcano. The Blade of the Volcano doubles your damage because Kuudra's in lava, and then the Bone Meringue will double it again because of Backbone, and the Rend enchant will multiply it again. And this is how Rends have worked in the past. They've just used an item to multiply their damage, because it just applies every single bit of damage that you could onto the boss. The main reason why low gear players can't Rend is because Rend scales a lot better when people have a lot of stats. So let's say you had like 1500 crit damage and you're Rending, and then you get an extra 2 crit damage as like some sort of upgrade. That 2 crit damage would do a lot more than, let's say, if you're a person with 1,1000 crit damage and you're trying to Rend and then you got plus 2 crit damage from someone. The plus 2 crit damage would do a lot less than someone with high gear, so the more like stats you have, the more damage you'll do, obviously.